And we're live. Welcome to the Prometheans. I'm Isran. I'm the only one here right now. Radio Brain will be with us shortly. Well, tonight I think we're going to go ahead and cover the first presidential debate. This will be a lot of fun. So, and if anyone's predictions, feel free to share them with us in chat. I'm curious to see what you think might happen, wild card or anything like that. I personally think that no, I'm not gonna place bets on who's gonna win or that kind of thing because I don't think that's often something you're gonna get out of these debates. But I am, of course, and I think I can speak for Radio Brain here before he gets here. I am in favor of Trump on this, so we'll see. Now if there's any thoughts on, well, I gotta be completely honest. If Biden's my big thing is Biden gonna piss himself? So, a friend of mine shared a excuse me, friend of mine shared a fun little link to a bingo card for both candidates for the night. I'm going to go ahead and throw that into our chat. Have fun with it if you can. So we all know the game. The game's pretty simple. So some of the notable bingo squares for President Trump are talking about his campaign being spied on or Israel. Anytime, if he ever says wrong, free slot right there, but my dudes. And most of Biden's are, your usual Bidenisms. His free space being, where am I? I think that's a bit of a wild card. Um, his being bringing up Roe v. Wade. His word of choice is look or folks. You have to forgive me if I'm a little quiet. It's just it's not quite the same when I'm the only person here, and just it's the pre-debate coverage, and not much to talk about right now. We are going with the link for this though is supposed to be from the YouTube channel Donald J. Trump. We should be safe in that regard. Just playing hell to try to make sure we found a good source. And if for some reason there's no audio pass through, I think it's in our description. I think Radio Brain got that set up for you had to take off for a few. I did crop out the live chat because it's absolutely nuts, and I can't shut it off with the with OBS with the way I've set that up. So. Again, I do apologize for any dead air. 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 Okay, that's weird. Again, I do apologize for any dead air. Okay, that's All right, we're 5 minutes out.
Okay.
Okay, you're finally here. Excellent.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just getting ready still. What I'll probably do is I'll probably come in live and I'll mute myself because I don't know, on the other side of the planet in another time zone. Okay, so I've got that bingo thing up ready and an image manipulator, and I'm going to actually cross it out as we go.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. I'll throw that up in Paint. That sounds
So, yeah, I'm reading them right now just to. Oh fuck me! What was the one that's missing in Joe's is he says some kind of weird mangled up euphemism,
I mean,
like
if we want, we could pull one
dog
of them
pony
out.
soldiers or something.
We could pull one of these out and just put that in our own place.
Yeah.
And
No, don't worry about it now.
I was gonna say, anyone on the chat, go ahead and customize your debate bingo board as you want.
Yep. So we're live now, are we? And the sound's
Oh yeah,
on?
we've been live. It's just we've just had a few minutes of dead air because nothing really. I wasn't really sure what the hell to talk about.
Okay.
I feel as lost and as confused
I thought
as
you had
one
it
of the
muted.
candidates. Yeah, I felt right now I feel as lost and confused as one of the candidates.
Yeah.
Dealer, you're welcome to fit.
I mean, Trump will probably look that way too. I mean, if you were standing opposite Biden trying to figure out what's going on in his head, that's probably pretty taxing on the brain.
Oh God, if I was trying to figure out what's going on in the heads of either of them, I think my brain would implode.
Yeah. So what do you reckon they're going to go? What do you reckon's going to fall first in the bingo for Trump and Biden, respectively?
I don't know. I think it's really going to come down to the first question. So, and I know that President Trump's supposed to get the first question, and that will give, and then he's going to have 2 minutes to answer it, and then Biden's going to have 2 minutes to reply. So then some people might be going, "Oh, I mean, is that entirely fair to allow his opponent to have the first chance to pounce?" I'm sitting there going, "No, he's the incumbent. He's the defending president. He should answer the first question."
Yeah. Have they published them?
No, and
somewhere.
They definitely shouldn't have published them ahead of time because you can't allow the candidates to have.
I think they had a topic list somewhere.
They had a topic list, but they didn't have a published list of questions, which is good. So
yeah, I meant the topics. Do you know?
Yep, I'm grabbing it.
I might, because that'll be. All
right, let me try to find some of the.
Yeah, I got a list. Hopefully this is it.
Because I think there's 6 points. Sorry about that. Okay, the selected topics are the Trump and Biden records, the Supreme Court, COVID-19, the economy, race and violence in our cities, and the integrity of the election.
Yeah. When they get to number 5, they're going to be talking about 2 very different things, aren't they?
Yeah,
Trump's going to be talking about the riots. Biden's going to be talking about police brutality. That's Christ!
I don't know.
So their record, I reckon Trump's going to go for greatest economy. That's my bet.
Oh yeah, that's going to be no question. And Biden's going to go. I have no idea what Biden's going to go with because he can't. It used to be he was able to run on his law and order position back in the 90s. Him being one of the key authors of the 1996 crime bill, which he's come under an enormous amount of heat for because of the ongoing riots and stuff. So, what do we got going on here now? Something's changed.
Looks like they've gone live. Probably another bloody half an hour for them as well.
They should be going fully live right now. What's going on here? Oh no, we're
Anyway,
a
I'm
minute
just
out. We're
going
a
to
minute
go.
out. Never
I'm
mind.
going to go mute for a bit because I just got to go get the results of my my drug test, which we all have to have before the debate. That's what I'm looking forward to first of all. I want to see the look on Biden's face, like when he's ramped up on meth or something.
Oh dear Lord. I hope he's not ramped up on something for his sake and as much of any other. So, all right, it's officially 6 o'clock. Where are we now here? This should have been a good source. I'm gonna check another streamer. See.
Yeah, C-SPAN's going. I think that's. Yep, here we go. They're starting on C-SPAN.
Okay, you have the YouTube link for C-SPAN to throw me, and I can change up this page to make sure that we have it, and not just this empty blank thing that I didn't expect.
Oh, bugger.
A little annoyed about.
Hopefully that links straight in. Oh, here we go. Melania has just entered with a mask on, looking very ominous.
Of course.
No one else is wearing him, from what I can see.
Oh, you're using
Interesting.
Okay. I'm going to update the OBS source here, so... Wait, no, here we are. Never mind. We've got the stage. There's no audio coming in yet, so... All right, so we actually have a good one. Well, yeah, they really are pulling out all the stops with the social distancing, because there's only supposed to be like 80 or so people in the... well, 80 or so people, and by that I mean 80 or so audience members. Obviously, there's a couple hundred people behind the scenes and stuff. I mean, there's easily 100 people in the Secret Service detail for the president, and probably another 60 or so, probably an similar equivalency for Biden. Because now that Biden is the official Democrat candidate, he does receive Secret Service protection, I believe. I know he definitely receives it for sure if he wins the election and becomes president-elect.
Did you ever see his debate back in the day with Sarah Palin? 2008.
Yeah.
Different person.
Different Joe Biden, and dealing with somebody that a toddler could have run over. In their big wheel. He also tore Marco Rubio apart in 2012, though Marco Rubio did a bit better job than Palin did against him. So, damn. Oh, I finally figured out what the ticker at the bottom is of this. This is these are all people donating to these are all donors to the president's campaign. Moves a little too fast to read them, though, I gotta say.
That's a lot of super chats.
Those aren't super chats, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You know, when people put that on their streams.
Yeah.
So just whizzing past.
I think we don't have... Is the C-SPAN feed have audio?
Good question.
Well, actually, okay. Is your stream saying live C-SPAN 2?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, then that's the one the president's YouTube channel is using, and if you're not getting audio, I'm not going to get audio on it yet. So.
Well, Wallace is sitting down.
Apparently, I'm coming in a bit quieter than I had intended. Is it a bit better, guys? Trying to... And I think... Oh, crap. I think I know what it is. Hold on, I'll be right back.
I don't get the impression I'm having a boomer moment with the audio.
All right, I'm back. If the audio is coming in a lot better, that
okay, it's about to start.
Okay.
So you should be able to hear Chris Wallace talking in a moment.
Well, we'll see. So yeah, chat. My problem was my air conditioner.
Good evening from the Health Education Campus
Oh
of
my
Case
God.
Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I
Hold on.
welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates.
Yeah, is it better now?
Between President Donald J. Trump and former
Okay.
Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
Is this better, guys? I think I raised it by 30%. Okay.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
This is going to be
Gentlemen,
a shit
a
show.
lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong, and where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes in the
He's
court.
starting to fumble.
And the justice, and
Yeah, he is a little.
I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written
But he
before
does
she
stutter
went
a
on the
lot,
bench,
too,
which
so.
is her right,
Which I
that she
forget.
thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy.
He just changed
They're able to-
direction in
they're
what he was
able to
talking
charge a
about.
woman more for the same exact procedure a man did.
Yeah.
Gets.
But we
And
got, hey
that
everyone, we've
ended
got two
when
boxes.
we, in
Tick off
fact,
your
passed the
ACA
Affordable
box
Care
and wait
Act.
for until after
And there's
election for
100 million
SCPIC.
people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as a say is concerned, the people already had their say. They
Ah, crap.
Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
is
going
that-
to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
Does that count as a cognitive ability?
No.
Open discussion.
Question.
Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of
That's
the
not something I'd
Democratic
brag
Party
about.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200 million, the 200,000
What did he
people
just
who
say?
have
He's
died on his watch,
approving. What?
how many of those?
Couldn't get that word out.
Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had
Pre-existing conditions.
308,000 military people dying
Good
because
comment
you
in the
didn't
chat.
provide them proper
I am the
healthcare in the
Dems.
military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about.
And if you were here, it would be 200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe,
no,
which was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
a
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court.
Check your Roe v.
And so
Wade
that's
boxes, ladies
also
and
at stake
gentlemen.
right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view.
The
on
hell is the
Roe
ballot
v.
in the
Wade.
court
I don't
even
know
mean?
you.
Well, all right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they
Let me-
want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health.
I love our chat. It's
Over
great.
the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you
rid
an
of
op-
the
I'm-
individual
Well, it hasn't
mandate.
got the
Excuse me. I got rid of
stare
the
so much
individual
this
mandate,
time.
which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Like when
plan.
in
No,
town
but,
hall.
I think we can check our first Trump
You're
box
debating
off.
his
Fights with
party. Let me ask
moderators.
my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe.
Here we go.
The
No,
individual
I-
mandate was the most unpopular
Mr. Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to,
will
Mr.
protect people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
Go ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let
Yeah,
me
that
just tell
box
you
is
something.
perfect.
There's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma.
Refractor
Drug
said
prices
this
will
is the
be coming
best
down
improv
80 or
comedy show.
90%. You could have done it during
It
the
is.
47-year period in government, but you didn't do it.
I mean,
Nobody's
my
done
biggest
it.
prediction
So
was
we're
and has
cutting
been for
healthcare.
months.
All of the things that we've
These
done.
debates are
Yeah,
going to be
so
some of the
I give
best
you an example.
television
Insulin.
of the
It's going
decade.
to- It was destroying families,
Uh,
destroying people. The cost. I'm getting
I
it
don't know.
for
They're
so
not going to be
cheap.
as good as some of the
It's
moments
like
in the Hillary
water.
ones, are
You
it?
want to know the
I reckon
truth.
at the moment it
don't
looks
know
like
yet.
Trump
Look at
is
all of
he's
the
holding
drugs,
back
what we're doing,
because he
prescription
can't.
drug prices.
If
We're
he
gonna
goes
allow
in
our
too hard, he's
governors
going to
now
look
go
like
to
an
other
arsehole
countries to buy drugs
Well,
if he
because
pushes
they
Biden
pay
in the
I
wrong
also
way.
think
So
this
he's
is kind of what I
be
was.
careful.
This is also kind of what I was
Let me-
concerned
you'll be
about
happy,
Wallace.
Sir, you'll
So.
be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will, if I
sorry.
can ask you the question, it will
Not what your
end.
party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
when
we
you-
call it.
when
And that gives
manifest-
you socialized medicine.
Look,
You reckon that counts as
listen,
assisted
listen,
by
the
Chris
fact
Wallace?
Of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
I don't know,
I-
chat. What do you think?
I-
Does
I
that tick
beat
off
him
the
a whole
assisted
lot.
by Chris
I'm not-
Wallace
I'm
box?
here
I don't
facing
think
you.
so.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days
it was
ago. He
softball,
lost
that's for
every
sure.
All he
primary
knows how to
on
do is
Super
hurt.
Tuesday.
Well, he did have to
Very
sort of
lucky
rein
did.
Trump in, and
I
then
got
you
very
know,
lucky. I'm gonna get very
okay,
lucky
Joe,
tonight
you
as
can
well.
do something now.
And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie.
He said, "Here's the
I'm not
deal,"
gonna
didn't he?
call out his lies.
Oh,
Everybody
there we are.
knows
There's the
he-
deal.
Yep,
But you
I just
agreed
want
Twice
to
in
make sure-
10 seconds.
I want to make sure.
graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Talk,
the wrong
talk,
night
Joe,
at the
go.
wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders.
I
saying-
think that counts as
Let-
Biden's
let-
cognitive
There
ability
is
in
no
Trump's card.
manifesto, number
Please let
one.
him speak.
Number two.
No, that's a cheap
Number
jab, not a
two,
cognitive.
I-
Cognitive ability would be
just
something where
lost
it's evident
off.
that he
You
is
agreed
just
with Bernie Sanders
out there,
on a plan.
out there in left field somewhere.
Absolutely agree.
Folks,
Yeah,
do you have
okay.
any idea what this
Or standing in a shower with his mouth open, like Hermes in Futurama.
Oh, hang on, we might have an Antifa one
He
coming
is
up.
not for any help
He's talk-
for people who
Trump
need
just
health
raised
care.
talking about
Because
the
his-
left,
because
losing the
he,
left.
in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million
No,
people
false alarm.
getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three,
health care at a much lower price
but-
because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
Gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president's. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual
true.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well
There's the Obamacare box for
or
Trump.
badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably
Yeah.
blame him, but they'll blame
He
me
mentioned
too,
a while
but they
back,
won't help
actually.
me.
Yeah, I kind of
Okay?
missed it.
I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive,
I got you.
premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
peop- that's what his
So
people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no.
rid of it.
It's an
Chris, we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir, but
something
I have
that's
to. I
cheaper
have to
and
give
better.
you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for
Oh, you
anybody.
mean like
He's been
your, the
promising
guy
a
you
healthcare
worked for?
plan since he got elected. He has none. Like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have
against
one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people
Oh,
should
that's a
speak.
dodge.
You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so-
list?
All right, gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unpresidential.
court.
That
We
is
have
so-
ended.
not gonna give a
We
list.
have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
If Wallace does something like this again, that
Keep-
I'll
yeah,
definitely call that
People
assisted.
understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
Yeah, up. 47 years in
Second
politics
subject
for on
is
your Trump board.
COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject.
Bingo. Oh, not bingo. So what? I forgot how to play. I shouldn't have said that early.
More than 7
No, you need
million
5. You've only got
cases
3 for
of
Trump, unless you got more
coronavirus
than
in
I
the
have
United
on here.
States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it
Well, it's
could be
5 in a row,
months
isn't
or
it?
even years before we
Yeah.
come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead.
Did you say good luck?
7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact,
To who?
have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of
I
the
missed that.
40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan.
I think
He hasn't laid out anything.
I think
He
Biden
knew
thought Trump
all
was
the way
gonna be
back in
hit soon
February how
first.
serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do?
Did he just do the
His
number
own
1,
tape
number
is
2
acknowledging he knew it.
routine?
He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because
think he
didn't want
did.
to panic the Americans.
anyone else catch that
Yeah.
chat?
You
The
don't
number 1,
panic.
number 2
He panicked.
on the
In
board?
addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for
Oh.
being so transparent with
The
us.
link is at the
And
top
what
of the
did he do
chat.
then? He
Yeah,
did
could you go ahead and
nothing.
repost it in
He
there,
waited
in
and
chat?
waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Yep, I'm doing
I
it.
laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be
Oh.
providing all the
Uh-oh.
protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in
I
the
hope that
golf course and
works.
go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we
wait,
would have listened
Wait,
to
wait,
you,
you have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened.
China.
They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when
Almost.
you talk about numbers, you don't
No,
know how many people died
for
in
me, it
China.
qualifies
You
because
don't
he's
know how many
blaming
people
China
died
for
in
something.
Yeah.
Russia. You don't know how many people died.
No,
in
no,
India.
I,
That's
it's
exactly
got to be
what
him
you said,
saying it like
just so
that.
you understand.
That's what I reckon.
But if you
okay,
look at what
fair.
we've done, I closed it, and
Yeah,
you said he's
China.
xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2
Oh.
minutes.
You didn't think we
Closed
should have
country
closed
before
our
anyone.
country because you thought it was too.
Oh, but
it
that's
was
not
terrible.
quite.
You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By
He
my
said he
doing
closed
early, in
it,
fact,
not
Dr.
the
Fauci
before
said,
anyone part.
President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news.
Okay,
They give you
brags
bad
about
press. They
coronavirus
give me
testing.
bad press
And fake
because
news.
That's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it.
Yep.
But I'll
Oh,
tell you,
he's
Joe,
got
you
it.
could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
Oh,
no
very
economic
200,000.
recession.
Sir, you made a
There was,
Far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease.
you made a
Right.
point.
He said that way
There's
earlier,
no
actually.
one- there's
Okay,
no-
I
we
wasn't
didn't
sure.
Shut down the economy.
Yeah.
This is his economy that's being, he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this
Folks.
morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table? Because
Yeah.
somebody
We're
had
gonna,
COVID?
we're gonna win bingo on Biden
How many
alone.
of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
That
Far
is-
more people.
And,
You would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of
That's the fourth time he said
notion of
that.
a vaccine,
200,000.
vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What
Oh,
we
what's
trust
this?
is the
Joe Biden's an
scientists.
anti-vaxxer
We
now?
trust Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer.
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna,
Oh, you
Johnson
bastard.
& Johnson, and others.
What?
They can go faster than that.
Oh, I
by a
just
lot.
lost the video.
Become very
Don't mind me.
political
I'm just
because
being an
the
idiot.
left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left. I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slawi?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them.
I'm gonna
And he
mute
didn't
while
say
I
that.
fix something.
He said it could
Okay.
be there, but it could also be much
hold
sooner.
the fort.
I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available, not when
Well,
it will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him-
know that.
I
That
don't-
was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though,
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the scientists.
No. You can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
and
charge.
by the way,
They will have
and
the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State.
Oh.
You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me.
There it is, Biden's cognitive ability. That's got to count. That's got to
There's nothing
count.
smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done
Well,
nothing.
let's
Him
have this
going
debate.
after his
You
cognitive
Would have had-
ability?
Let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have
Yeah.
had the
Could that be
job
more
On
maybe
top
an
of
attack
just-
on his
I was put
intelligence?
through. I had to close the greatest economy in
No,
the
I
history of
reckon
our
he-
country. And
I
by the
think
way,
it
now
counts.
It's being built again.
See, he-
And it's
What do you
going
think,
up
Chad?
He's brought it up.
Segment,
His
sir.
Okay.
current ability.
going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so
All right.
far, the two
Bill
of you
says
have taken
Bing-
very
Bill
different
says it's a
approaches,
spot.
and this is
I'll
going
go
to
with that.
affect how the virus
So
is
does
handled
token Italian
going
guy.
forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what
And there
the
should be a
plan
space
is.
for
You've got to
doesn't have a
provide
plan. He
these
keeps saying that.
businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
Let-
And he sits on his golf course. And I mean, literally, think
I
about
recall
it.
the
You
last
probably
time he
think
met
about
with
it. I do,
Pelosi and
Joe.
Schumer, they tried to
What
dictate
about
to
this
him.
question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country.
Oh.
And I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a
he
great
just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. We want to He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
threat.
another
I've
subject.
got to respond.
Yeah, that supports
Those
my
states-
hypothesis. That,
those
I wanna
states
move on to
are
another
not
this will
doing
go away
well
if he
that are
wins
shut
the,
down
if
right now.
Biden wins the election.
Wants to
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away
the cameras
from
are
me. He
on.
shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
As soon as the cameras
I
are
will
off,
say-
the mask comes
I
off.
will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal
Oh, it's
to
the
be
look
able to
slot.
We provided money. The
But
Congress.
I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no,
the
no
opposite.
serious person said the opposite.
They've
no
also said, well, look
serious
all right, I
at
wanna
person.
ask
Dr.
you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
Said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with.
Because nobody will show up.
I was waiting for that.
All right. In any case, why are you holding the big rallies? Why
That should have
are you-
been on the fucking
I
card.
know.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Yes, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
or
negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000
All right. Do you
people
wanna-
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history.
Bingo.
We closed it down
Oh, no,
because of the
sorry, no,
China
we're missing
plague.
one.
When the plague came
The
in, we
greatest
closed it
economy.
down, which was very hard.
Yep, I'm actually missing
psychologically to
2
do. He
mail-in
didn't think we
ballots
should
and
close
voter
it down,
fraud
and
for
he
that
was wrong.
space.
And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of
Yeah.
still
hasn't
204,000
brought up-
people is too much.
Did
One
you
person
check off
is too
brings
much.
up
Should have
Kamala?
never happened from China.
But that wasn't him.
what
That was
happened
No.
Wallace.
we
No.
closed it down,
Yeah.
and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a
Nah,
4-month period that
false
we
call,
put
Mike.
back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough
close.
Say
shutdowns.
cities,
And I'm
man.
telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever.
And we're
they
not
want,
idiot
but they gotta
children that
open
need
these
to be
states
led
up.
around by our
When you look
nobil,
at
our ruling
North
no,
Carolina, when you
feudal
look at
lords.
These governors are under siege. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others. You got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right, your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
What
Difference
does that even
is
mean?
millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion.
Yes, because of
because
the
his profligate
shutdowns.
tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks
I
at
don't want to
home,
be a serf to
you
Jeff
folks living in
Bezos.
Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid
Well,
a total of $750 in
wrong.
taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's
It's
his
the
two.
wrong
Yeah,
statement.
I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who
No, I
have
think
been on the
Calacan's
front
got it now.
lines.
I've never
Those
seen it
people who
called
have
that.
been
I've called it an
saving our
inverted
lives. Those people
chevron
who have been out
recovery
there
before, but
dying.
not a K.
People who've been putting themselves in the
Ah,
way to make
okay.
sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis.
It's also
And he
the
has
fault
no
of the Democrats who
intention of doing
continue to keep
anything
the
about
state shut
making it
down,
better
giving
for
major
you all at
corporations like
home in terms of
Walmart
your
and
health and your
Amazon
safety. Schools. Why aren't
huge
schools open?
opportunities
Because it
as
costs
the
a
small
lot of money
businesses
to
are
open them
dying
safely.
off.
You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and
Oh,
take
he did
care
mention
of the
Trump's
needs of the
taxes.
American
Attempted
people
to. That
so
does.
we
I think
can
that
open
qualifies as
safely.
Trump tax
Your
returns.
time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse
Did he
me,
stop
I made a
mid-sentence?
statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right, let's-
people of
let's-
Ohio are very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going
I
to get
found
back.
out? When he took
Gentlemen,
a phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, There was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your
one
tax
year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
When?
see it. But
In
let me just tell
Shalom?
you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for
this
tax
is something
credits.
he's
We
good at
built the
going at the
building,
left
and we
for.
get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which,
'Cause this
by the
is him
way,
going back
was
on
given
his,
to me by the Obama
history of
administration.
being
if
a
you
New
can
York
believe
Democrat
that.
and
Now
benefiting
the man
from
got fired
no,
right
all
after
of
that
the little
happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do wanna
kickback
respond.
games they play
Look,
in Washington.
the tax code that made
Yep.
him, put him in a position that he
You
pays
voted
less
for, buddy.
tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those
Tax
tax
cuts aren't what allowed him to
and
take
make sure
advantage
that
of
we
it. It's
invest
the
in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you
I wanna-
weren't
Why didn't you
president.
do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no, no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just
That's a
Joe,
come
I've
on,
done
man,
more
isn't it?
Yep.
In
That would count.
47 months,
Yeah.
I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care
We're
of your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because
Central
it would
planning
be
always
about
claims to do that and never
buying
delivers
American.
even
That we have
5%
to,
of its
we're going to make,
claims.
the federal government spends $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune
He's lost his
500,
train of thought. That's another one.
paying tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president with Obama?
Because
Are you sure?
in fact, passed that. That was
right.
your
I got
Yeah, I think so.
You
He
got it done, and you
went
know
off.
what?
He started going into different directions,
The
and
economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let
let
me-
me-
when Wallace
Mr.
prompted
President,
him
let me pick
to
up on that.
go back to
You
talking about
would
taxes, he started
continue
waffling
your
into
free market
like he didn't know
approach,
what
lower
to
taxes,
say,
more
like I just
deregulation,
did just
correct?
then.
Not lower taxes.
Okay, chat. Did he go
Let
off,
me-
lose train of
but
thought?
in-
One
but
for yes,
in
two for no.
Obama's- You talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since
right.
1929.
3-1.
It was the slowest
you're-
recovery.
I agree.
Also,
Bingo.
They took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. if you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave
hardly
for
any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression.
my
in
God, that
American
is, well,
history.
what, a-
I was asked to bring it back. We were able to
12
have an
ye-
economic recovery.
12-year-old
that created the jobs
line?
you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy.
And yep, that
He
was a
blew
look.
It.
It wasn't
He blew
booming.
it. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID,
Yep.
manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris,
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take a
guy,
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not regret-
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General
Oh,
Motors.
I'm the
brought it
guy.
Back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
No,
came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to
no,
Ohio.
they're not having
And
that.
they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out.
Hunter Biden.
He takes out.
Hunter Biden
billions
did
of
it, yep.
dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma?
none
Wasn't
of
that
that-
confirmed by
$183,000.
the ex-wife of the former mayor of Moscow?
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please. you've asked
totally
the question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait,
let's
he didn't
talk-
get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
That is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion.
I think he's
please.
starting to-
It's a fact.
Well,
I think he's
you
starting to
have
weaken a
raised an
little.
issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
He was just looking like a naughty child. Did you notice that? Like he's,
No experience.
it's like he
got caught with
reverted
his
to
hand in the
childhood.
cookie jar.
No
Yeah.
job.
My son did nothing
Yeah, well-
wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
The only
President,
guy that
let him
did
Choo
answer.
choo.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And you
The
can-
media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited
That's-
it. Matter of
No,
fact,
that's not
matter
when
of
time
fact,
was called.
even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead.
He's
Mr.
assisting.
I'm listening to you.
I think this is
People
assisted
under-
by Chris
$3.5
Wallace.
He
million from
testified.
Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration. Said, "I did my job and I did
Assisted
it
by
very
Chris
well.
Wallace?
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know
honorably."
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did
Some
a good
because
job.
some people don't do
well,
a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
You
right.
get
here's the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
well, it's hard
Alrighty.
to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe.
No. I'm Mr. President. I'm
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't
Oh, I
want to
know
do
it's
that.
not. It's funny.
I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote
a fortune by
Go
coming down
ahead.
and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with.
He's
God.
looking desperate not to
That's
talk
right.
about it.
Mr.
That's
President.
Yeah.
Every single
He's
one.
really
This
struggling.
is not
Mr.
about
President.
my
Coming and
family or his
helping us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
That's
I-
a
He
good
stood
thing.
up.
No,
he stood up.
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
That
don't get rid
is
of the
you know what, you're-
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
true.
Oh,
You're
Trump's
gonna-
not letting that one go.
No, and he shouldn't.
I hate to raise my voice,
This-
but I think
this
it to be-
deflection by
why
Wallace
shouldn't I
is
be different than the
inexcusable.
two of you. So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have
And now Wallace has got
Sixth
flustered.
segment. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more
Well,
interrupting
that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than you have. Let's please
It's
continue.
just-
Biden interrupts so much he
Vice
interrupts
President Biden
himself
say
half the
that
time.
President
No, I just love it when
Trump's
Trump's like this
response
because
to
it's
the violence
it
in
is like a
Charlottesville
small
3 years
child,
ago,
but it's so
when he talked
damn
about
funny.
Very fine people on both sides was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that
This
you
is great
believe you
television.
have done more for black Americans than any
Oh.
president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the 2 of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent
Grant did more,
to
to be
deal
honest.
with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away
doesn't
from
guarantee
trying
any
to
of those.
require equity for
equal
everyone,
opportunity.
equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very
Oh,
fine
go for
people
it,
on
Trump.
both sides. No president has ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish the
It
statement.
is who's
Now,
2
second,
minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is
Oh,
that
was he making
when
a Charlottesville reference?
Floyd was killed, when Mr.
Yes.
Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful
That has been
protest in
so
front of the White
thoroughly
House.
debunked.
What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is
Calls Trump
divide people,
divisive.
not unite people
Yep.
at all. This is
There
a
we go.
president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President
What?
Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's
Oh, that's a good
So
play.
you did that, and
It
they
is,
call you
and
super
it is true.
predator, and I'm letting people out of jail
If
now.
I recall
that
specifically,
you have treated the
Hang
African
on.
American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why if you look
do
at
it,
the
please do it,
polls,
please do it,
I'm
please
doing
do it.
better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical
That's
left
Democrat
Democrats.
cities.
Yes,
if you
that
look
is.
at Chicago, if
Yep,
you look
that's
at
close
any
enough.
place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe
Oh,
in
he
law and
said
order,
it.
but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top
Wait, what?
40 cities are
Law and
run
order.
by Democrats
Free
and in many
space.
cases radical
It's a free
left.
space,
middle
but
one.
yeah.
You wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more
It's still not as bad as I can
transparency
get.
and when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful
President-
protest? When they run through the middle of a town
President Trump-
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people
President
all over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
I did
President
not
Trump, I'd
say
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses
Yep,
white
call it what it
privilege
is,
or
critical race theory. Up there.
Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were
needs to cite
teaching
examples.
people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to
I
happen.
reckon that'd be a trap
We have to go back to the core values of
because
this
then he's
country.
gonna.
They were
Then
teaching
they can
people
start
that our
discrediting
country is a
these things
horrible
and
place. It's
putting
a
pressure
Yeah, you
on
got a
racist
point
place,
there.
And they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President
Yeah, I'm
Biden?
agreeing with Toka
Nobody's
Tanga. You did
done
not
that.
do well
He's
on this
just,
point.
He's
Oh,
the
you
racist.
just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
Of course he does.
The fact is that there is racial
Takes one to know one.
insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people
Oh,
who don't
God
have
damn it.
money. They look
No,
down
you
on
didn't grow
people
up in
who
Scranton.
are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that the
ridiculous.
Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime-
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead,
Yes, I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
A
law
little
and
bit of
order. This is
order.
Law and
No,
order.
let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're now.
is
You're,
trying
It's
to-
only gone up
Mr.
in the last
President,
few
you're
months,
States of
and only in the
America.
major
Mr.
cities
President,
where they are in the
record
process of
Mr.
trying to
President, you're
burn
going to
them
be very
down.
happy because
And the
we're now going to
excuse
talk
me,
about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
so
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would be
way-
gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a
before.
suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
Wait,
raised.
go ahead.
I was,
Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This
He
is not
built a lot of
1950.
suburbs.
All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their
Yeah.
kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, police.
He has
local police,
flip-flopped on that,
the only one
depending
defunding
on
them,
who's
his
asking
budget
him.
calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so
That
we
last
have to
part's
be
actually
That's
somewhat
not
engaged
what
true.
they're
with
talking about.
Police officers
Chris.
should
That's
kind
not
of
what
be
he knows.
That-
He's
from
talking
within
about
about, like,
defunding
30,
the
40
police.
that is not true.
He doesn't
where
have
they live.
any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
except
about
listen.
it. Name one
folks,
law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the thing.
I sent
sir,
in
no,
He
wait,
stayed
wait,
out of the
one
way.
question.
to get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
don't-
And so here's the
All right.
But here's the point.
Go
The
ahead,
point is that that's what he is keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
no.
second.
You've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would
no,
love
you
to
know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
you
we
know, if
would
you want to
very
switch seats,
I know,
we
right?
could-
Very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
He's done
and
so.
to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
Do it.
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say,
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
what do you-
He
what do
he
you-
needs
what
to
are you
actually
saying?
just
I'm
look at the
willing
camera
to
and
do
say,
anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
fuck off to the
do
white
it.
Just
supremacists.
say what he said before.
You want to call him?
I condemn
What do
him.
you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about
He
Antifa
said it.
and the left, because this
Yep.
is not a
His
right-wing
own-
problem.
his
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
Go ahead,
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization,
you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his
an idea.
FBI, his
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna-
you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
Everybody
We're
gives
moving.
you
Bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's not
administration.
an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you that
Antifa on the board.
That's a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group.
now moving on to the Trump
And
and,
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
Oh.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Time, sir.
300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy.
No.
And he caused the recession.
Your
With
president
regard
botched
to
it.
being weaker. The fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even
Oh my
say
God, my
anything to
Ru- my
Putin
Russia.
about
Nope, that's my
bounty
Russia.
on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my son,
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he
Yeah,
never
he
keeps
does.
his word. Can
Because-
you add
No,
back
no,
30
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That
not
was a
telling the
rhetorical
truth, that's
question.
all.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and
Military
being-
comments.
and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser.
No, the other son was.
He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter?
Oh!
I'm talking about my
Oh.
son, Beau Biden. You're
I
talking
don't know.
about
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
my son,
and he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it.
I actually
he's
feel
fixed
bad
it.
for
He's
Biden at
worked
this
on it,
point because
and I'm proud of him.
I'm seeing
I
him as
was
a
proud of
dad,
my son.
and he
All right,
looked
I
like
wasn't
it.
given
All right,
tens of
Mr.
millions.
Yeah.
That is
Tens of
totally
And I can understand a dad wanting to
totally
protect his kids.
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay,
from
right.
the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
not
think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he
It's
discredited.
been such a
I-
shit
Mitt
show.
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people.
I don't understand
when
why this
state
is on
officials
the
there
docket.
blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else.
Yes,
The
thank
forest
you.
floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion
He
Tree
needs to
Project,
answer it.
and it's very
You
exciting.
believe
issue for a lot of
that
people.
human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes.
It could
I think
also
to an extent,
be
yes, but I
divisive
also
to
think
the
we have to
voting
do
public.
better management.
Yeah,
Like
but it is
forests.
also a pretty big
Yeah,
issue
they're
for a lot of
not-
people.
I get the call.
In
Yeah,
one way or the
but
other.
California's burning.
It's
California's
got to be
burning.
careful not to
If that was
go too
clean,
far
if
either
that
way.
were- if you had forest
state a
management,
position.
good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, "Sir, we have trees that are
Is any of
far
that
more-
true, token
they
Italian guy?
ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem." I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns
wrong
out.
there.
But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit
Okay.
of gasoline. And, by
That's
the,
not-
and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just
All right.
crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out.
I wasn't aware
There's so
buildings
many
emit
things that
oil.
we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035.
Oh, my Lord.
Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good-paying jobs.
Well, I mean,
not
you're not
15
wrong, Bill.
bucks
That
an
is the
hour,
goal of the
but
Green New Deal of the
prevailing
commies.
wage
They want
by
to
having a
terminate
new
our entire
infrastructure that,
civilization.
in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforest of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down.
Sorry about that.
More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the
That was
argument that
almost 2
President
seconds
Trump
of stuttering,
basically
but
says
not
that
quite.
You have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line.
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, makes sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings
and
rebuild the building.
No,
it's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that is
ridiculous.
not
Where
the
airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want to
true.
take out the cows too.
Not
That's not true either, right?
Not
This is
true.
this is a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going.
the case.
All right, let
It
me
will destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes: the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying
trillion
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a
we
lot of
we are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well.
New
You want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All
rebuild
right.
every.
If he knew anything
wait, no,
about,
wait.
if he
Gentlemen,
knew
He
anything
made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
not
said
sir,
it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that to
play
the
it.
Stop.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead, Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President.
Trump's been holding that in for a
answer
while, hasn't he?
His final question.
The final question is, I can't remember
Yeah.
which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New Deal.
you don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
He
statement.
did 6 months
I
ago.
That means you
support the
just
Biden-
lost the radical left.
Oh!
I support the Biden
Did a while
plan
ago.
that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or
Oh,
going
this
to
will be
vote
good. I should get my
early.
bingo on this one.
How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day? What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida.
That's not
number
a
one. Number
mail-in
two,
ballot.
we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote, because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting, because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter. Because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to.
Trump has to be really careful how he answers here.
Yes, he has to be
it
very
won't
careful.
happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me.
Oh, that's a good take. There's a bingo one too.
Started from the day I won,
Fine.
before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found
And
some
that's
with
mail-in
the name Trump.
ballots.
Just happened to have the name Trump
Yep.
just the other day in a waste paper basket.
He
my
structured
bingo.
his answer really well.
They sent
He
2
has.
in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you watch it and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say, you have to have your ballot in by November 10th. November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states
time,
with that,
sir.
all run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
Yeah.
All run by
I'd say
Democrats.
all ballots that'll come in by
President
the
Trump,
5th should be rejected.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter,
Absentee.
more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in
It's
ballots have
atrocious. He
gone
doesn't
out.
know the difference.
What are you going to do about it?
Oh no, I
Chris
think
Wallace
he does.
should
No,
know.
I
Are
think he
you
does.
counting
It's just
on the
it's an
Supreme
easier line
Court,
to go to run
including
with.
a Justice Barrett, to
Yeah,
settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm
I
counting on
reckon
them
it's
to
more
look at the
delusion than
ballots,
bias.
definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But
they
what are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
If there
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now,
do
what
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and
no,
that's
I'm not-
okay,
I know
or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
received-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden,
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead, sir.
mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by Election Day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he knows
You're
the
wrong.
outcome.
You're
No,
wrong.
no, I want to continue with you on
I
this.
love that.
Vice
If
it's
President
a matter of
Biden,
post-
He's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
If it's
statement.
a
no,
matter of
excuse me.
postmarks, shit. what's
Vice
that?
President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can
That's an
verify
absentee
that's you
vote,
when
isn't it?
before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient. to
sorry,
be able to
I
count
was
the
trying to check
ballot
something else.
because someone made a mistake.
Put a pin in
and
that,
not
and we'll bring that one.
dotting the
that section
correct
up again.
I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me,
No,
Chris,
no, no.
when you
I
have
a final,
80 million ballots
gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right.
been
So now,
fraud,
Mail
deception.
service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. And the
185
final
million
question
pieces of mail a
is:
day.
in 8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking. In
it's
8
a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what
sending
are you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified.
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a
but-
look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
if
see
in
an
fact,
honest
Okay,
ballot count.
gentlemen,
We-
you say that's the end
Chris,
of it. This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate.
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
Well,
Thank you.
nothing terrible happened to anyone, which is good.
Well, if you don't include Biden having severe burns at a few points.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think
chat.
Trump really.
So, chat. Do you want us to go ahead and also cover the VP debate next week? 1 for yes, 2 for no.
I reckon that'll be a very different debate than this one.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. I haven't seen enough with Pence's debating to know how he'd hold up against Kamala, but I know that Kamala, because of her background as a prosecutor, she is an excellent debater. What that was one of her strengths on the stages in the primaries. However, she did get absolutely shellacked by people son of a bitch, I forget her name from Hawaii.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard. Gabbard tore her the hell apart. And I wonder if Pence will be better at it, also be able to do it. Because Pence, I don't know if he has a prosecutorial or legal background prior to entering into politics, but I know he's been in politics for quite a few years. So, so yeah, we'll cover that next week. That'll be fun. So yeah, well, nothing terrible happened. I certainly thought that it was a hell of a shit show.
There's a lot of.
Oh man,
It wasn't as fiery as I expected. In terms of something really, really big happening.
Yeah.
Some
I
absolute
didn't expect something
standout
massive,
moment.
but we did
Nothing really like super meme worthy that's going to be remembered. But there's a lot of little details. Like some of his answers were Trump's sort of burn comments and raising certain details really put the pressure on Biden.
So if you want to throw me your bingo, I'll put it up, compare what we ended up coming up with for our bingos. Because here's mine. The free spaces are free spaces. You get them for free. So I think I did pretty good there. I figured that Obama was fair to do because he kept constantly trying to take credit for stuff the Obama administration did. Which is something he's been doing since he started running, even though the primary, he just started taking credit for stuff from the administration. And I'm sitting there going, but you're the vice president. Your job is supposed to be sit there, do nothing. So. Well, obviously, guys.
Biden was, I think, I remember when Obama started as president, Biden, to his credit, he did have a more significant involvement than most other VPs, but I put that down to the fact that he has had a long history as a senator. So,
oh yeah, that part.
I would give him points on that.
So, I would say. See, I don't like trying to assign victory in these political debates because these sorts of debates aren't like an academic debate where it's a lot easier to determine who won a debate and who didn't.
It's more about the effect it's going to have moving forward.
Yeah. So
basically,
I think that Trump's had some poor answers on a few things, which I kind of expected, and they were kind of on the subjects I expected him to not have the best answers on.
Which ones?
Well, let's see. What was it? The ones that we talked about, we briefly mentioned.
I only got the CRT one that I remember, but there were others. The CRT one, I think that's a difficult one because if you go into the details, it just opens up all the usual
the critical race theory.
Stonewalling.
Yeah, and he had to, and he also had to be very. You're right. He had to be very careful around that one because that's an easy trap.
Yeah. And he has to remember his audience too, because he can't. I mean, he might be really. He might have memorized, Robin DiAngelo's book or something, but to start talking about what are in those kind of books, it might alienate the audience, and he has to avoid that as a candidate. They both do, because they have to. They can't. They're not there to explain everything. They're there to butt heads.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And our and token Italian guys just mentioned that Shoe's apparently in the process of a complete and total meltdown on Twitter right now. I'm just sitting.
What's this? Absolutely seething on Twitter about the mail-in ballots scare. I would go and have a look if I wasn't blocked by her. So,
I might be blocked now because I follow you.
No, I don't know. I don't think she's using a block, but I think she just got sick of me.
Oh, you were driving her up the wall?
I've turned up, yeah. Yeah, I think it was yet another one of a certain merry man's Twitter arguments, and I was involved and went one too far, I suspect.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What were some of the other ones that he wasn't too good on with the answers?
Oh, crap. I'd actually have to go back and look. I should have written some of this stuff down, and I forgot to. Chat, what do you guys got? And you guys maybe have some areas where you think he didn't do as great. Bill's right on this one. He definitely interrupted way too often.
Yeah.
There were a few times where I'm sitting there going, Mr. President, I'm with Chris Wallace. I'm like, Mr. President, please shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I think...
up.
Of all the times he interrupted, I'd split it two ways. One is there are times when he was pushing his luck, but I think there were a lot of other times where it was a very strategic
he was like a sledgehammer on some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, no, I'm not giving this up because this is an important point. And when he was interrupting and saying it, that was a really good thing. This is an important point. This is important. Just keep reinforcing that.
Yeah. I think it's very possible a second debate will probably be more fiery. We'll see. And something I'm thinking for sure is, I think the next couple days or so are going to tell how the Biden campaign feels about Joe's health and how he held up, which I think he did good overall, but he definitely did seem to dip quite a bit, but he did seem to also come back up a little bit. But he was at his best at the start and was a gradual downhill, which doesn't mean anything's wrong with him. It could be a lot of different things there.
at worst, it's, you know, the thing about dementia. At best, it's just he's tired and old, and he's not. He couldn't go the distance.
Yeah.
And it was.
I agree with you,
could-
Calican, which is why when Wallace first brought up racial sensitivity training, I said call it what it is, critical race theory. The optics on Attack on Joe's Kids. I'm not sure, because I think Trump was specifically going after Hunter, but you saw
It's
Joe
cruel,
get his
but it
two
needed
kids.
to be done.
Joe got his past son, was it Beau Biden, mixed up with Hunter, and that really throws off.
Yeah, I think it's a cruel thing for him to go for that. But I would say it was bad if Hunter wasn't a big issue in all this.
Yeah, and
But
Hunter
the fact that
needs
he is, it's
you're-
like,
you're
no,
right on
sorry,
Hunter.
you have
He
to do
had
that.
to go at he
Yeah.
had to hit the Hunter Biden issue, and he had to hit it hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is Calican's right here. I'm just gonna just keep you short because you don't have your actual name, and I know your actual name. I'm just call you Tig. But no, Calican's right on this one, Tig. I think the Biden getting confused about his sons doesn't look good, because that happened in and around the phase of things where Biden was starting to get slowed and a bit more stuttery and slurred, and
yeah.
it's, well, I stutter, as my joke to say it is, I stutter like Biden. I stutter like Biden on speed, but at least I'm.
No, that was. Hang on. That was Biden on speed. We've just been watching it for 90 minutes. Okay.
Okay, then I stutter like Biden on a combination of meth, speed, and cocaine.
Yeah.
Pure uppers,
Yeah.
pupils dilated. So, I think the single biggest thing was, if I was to pick one, I'd say, let me look at the board here, because I know that was one of the things got marked on there. What do you think was the
Stay on that moment. Hang on, just before we move on.
Yeah.
With Biden's son, I just, I think I actually feel a lot of empathy for him, because I know that he lost a son a few years ago.
Which is always tragic.
As a father, and then he lost kids when he was young, and his wife, and I think it's like on a previous stream we talked about this being like elder abuse. It came to mind when he was struggling there, because he's an old guy. He's had a good life in many ways, but he's had a lot of tragedies, and he really should be in a rocking chair kicking back.
Grandkids.
And for all the bad things I can say about it, he's still a human being, and it's that came to mind many times during the debate. Is who the fuck put this guy up there? It's kind of cruel.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys, after whether Trump loses in November or he terms out in 2024, Trump should do the same. He should retire. He'll be over 8. I think he'll be either pushing or just about 80 years old by that point, wouldn't he? Isn't he like 75, 76 right now?
I think so.
So, I mean...
Yeah, I think so.
He should do the same. He should completely retire from politics and all, and I would say mostly, if I was in his shoes, I'd retire from public life for the most part. Spend time with my family, and when you're that old, you've only got a few good years left at best. But
Just
that's
definitely
me.
don't become a president.
Oh God, no. Well, I mean, Trump wouldn't be able to if he terms out. So, Biden should have completely retired from public life in 2016 when him and Obama termed out, especially when he announced he wasn't running in the Democrat primary. So, and I thought that when he said he wasn't running, that he was going to be, this was his "I'm retiring from public life" moment. I was like, well, good. Just go spend time with your family. But yeah, well, it is what it is. So, what do you think was the strongest blow from either of the candidates tonight?
Oh,
Everyone in chat
I
too,
think the
chime in whether you think yours was your strongest. Go on, RB.
good question. I think. Oh bloody hell! I've forgotten it now. Oh god. Later on, he was that question, the mail-in voting thing. I think. Um, I think what Trump was able to do there, it's a bit more subtle, but he was able to explain it, and he explained it really well in a short burst. That there's a difference between absentee voting, i.e., solicited and unsolicited, was the terms he used. He
Mm-hmm.
was able to do that, and then point at different other things, and he didn't get sucked into. He was really approaching the idea that he might dispute it. He managed to say that in the best possible way, and make the point that he will respect it, but if he sees something wrong, so
He'll challenge it.
he got a chance to really explain that, and I would expect that there's probably a lot of people who have been worried about him doing that because they've read it all over the place and been told it, and they might come away from the debate thinking, okay, might have to reassess what I thought about him. And
Yeah.
plus, he did a really good job of it's a really good encouragement to people to go out and vote and have their say.
Yeah. By the way, I was thinking we might actually go ahead and if you're okay with us doing this sooner than later, like open up and with a limited area our Discord so that people can do things like share their bingo cards.
Yep, actually, I reckon that's a good idea. Won't do it now, but
Yeah, well, I'll make sure
yeah,
to
actually,
we will make sure to update this video with a pinned comment that will have a link to our Discord server. And there will be a limited area in there where you can just like post your bingo cards so we can see what everyone's results were. So, because there's a few things, like I said, there's a few things on mine where I thought like the Obama, he just kept taking credit. But anyways, I was gonna say I think my example, the best part of the night was his direct hard strike on Antifa. And another area I think he did really, really, really good in, but it was wrapped up around all the climate change stuff. But something I'm so glad he brought up is the cause of the California wildfires is not global warming. It is horrendously terrible forest management. And he's absolutely right.
yeah, that was I was surprised that he was primed to go on that because
Well,
I didn't think they'd bring that up.
no, I didn't think it would happen at all, and I was so glad to see that issue come up.
Yeah. Do you reckon? What do you think about Biden's performance in terms of a heavy hitting moment? Do you reckon there was any time when he really got the jump on Trump?
I know there was. There has to. I'm sure there had to have been about one that I'm pretty sure I can consider he was pretty good on. There was a couple things I was verifying in the background on some stuff, like one that might have sounded like he'd come off pretty good because of Trump's deflection to it was him saying that Kellyanne Conway had said that the riots benefited Trump. And that's not, I went and verified that. Trump on the stage makes it sound like when he says, no, she didn't say that. I don't believe she said that. It kind of makes it sound like he's just denial of it, but he was actually right there. It's just, the public perception of it is going to be, she did say it. She did say it because most people are going to go ahead and try to fact check this. So what she'd said was, and I'm using Breitbart for this one because it's the first link I opened up when I searched for it. Claim one of Trump's top advisors expressed hope for more discord and violence in our cities. This was posted on the 27th of August. Verdict, false. She was commenting on the widely acknowledged fact that the riots were hurting Democrats politically. She wasn't saying that they benefit Trump. She was saying that they hurt the Democrats.
I think she did actually say that though in there. I'm
Let me
pretty
see
sure
here.
she did.
Well, I have is the quoted statement I have from her is before tonight's convention, one of Trump's top advisors even expressed hope for more discord and violence in our cities and a cynical ploy to use division as a political strategy. This was from a uh, statement released by the Biden campaign on the eve of the Republican National Convention. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, in response to the fourth and final night of the Republican convention, oh, sorry, no, the last night, Biden for president, deputy campaign manager and communications director Kate Bedingfield released the following statement. Those were Biden's deputy campaign manager for communications' words, not Kellyanne Conway's. And she at least once quoted a restaurateur saying or something, and then going on. I'll link the article in chat. It's a lot to read through, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing right now. We don't really have the time. But anyone is feel free to look at it. I'm not as big of a fan of Breitbart as a lot of other people and several of my friends, but for things, sometimes it's a good source for things. It's a source I'm willing to go with. What I'm trying to look for is I'll look some more into that one, but that one did feel like Trump kind of was trying to deflect off of it and say it wasn't true. But from everything I'm finding so far, it isn't true.
Yeah, it was probably smart just to say no.
Yeah,
Don't go into the details because I'm pretty sure she said it, but it's definitely out of context. And even without that, you can look at it and say, like, it's actually a true statement. Basically, the more writing that you have coming from the Democrats, it's going to help the Republicans. It's simple.
Well, yeah, and that is completely true. It was worded and the accusation was made by Biden to sound as if it was a cynical action because it was all wrapped up in that element of he's fomenting and benefiting from the chaos and he's trying to spread and create more of it for his own gain. And no, I don't think that's what's happening. Has Trump been a very divisive president? Yes. Do I think that it's something that he has actively been attempting to try and do for his own gain? No, I don't see that.
I think over the last 4 years, he's actually gone the other way. I think he's done a lot to try and
he's tried to be more unifying
things
in the last year and a half for sure than he had been in the first 2 years of his presidency. No question about that. And I think that's come with the territory of him growing into the office and becoming more and more familiar and comfortable and understanding a little bit more about how the process inside works. And it also helps the fact that he's finally in the last year and a half, and I've talked about this before, been gotten and cleaned out enough of the Obama holdovers that were the people poking holes in the bucket, making his administration leak like a sieve. Oh God, yes, the net zero energy production. Oh dear Lord, that was. I mean, it's a gaffe, yeah, but I mean, he's saying the quiet part out loud about what the communists want, so. And at this point, his campaign belongs to them. So, because he needs them, which is funny because I still think that they've checked out that they're not going to vote. So, we'll see. All right. I don't know. Do you think we're ready?
Actually, one thing is a bit more. One of the things I was surprised is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Black Lives Matter was never mentioned.
I know it wasn't at all. No, Chris Wallace mentioned.
I was surprised by that.
I was fascinated by that. So yeah,
and it kind of came across like Biden was not, when he was talking about the protests and police brutality issues and whatnot. It sounded like he was trying to avoid saying it.
No, yeah, it did. It did sound like he was trying to avoid it, and I think the reason for that is because he knows full well that their public support right now is absolutely tanking.
Yeah. It looked like, I was thinking along the lines, it's probably something where he's been coached and advised on it
Oh yeah,
in
and
advance. And
Lorm, another. Yeah, all right. Well, I think you're on the ball with this one too. His when he comes out and says support the police, I think he was so hesitant, dancing around it, but Wallace did press him. That was a good hard line from Wallace to get him to say something, and he did. And I can guarantee you he's going to take a hit in support from the radical left for that. I don't think there's really anything.
and Trump pointed that out too regarding, was it the Green New Deal or something else, where he said you just lost the radical left. Remember that
The
part?
cities. I think it was.
Yeah.
It was either the cities or it was the crime bill stuff. I don't. But pushing him on the law and order stuff to point out how he has been constantly flip flopping about that stuff in the last 6 months, depending on who he's talking to, really, really goes. The fact he comes out and has to go with what I think are his honest positions on stage on a national debate, he hurts himself with that, because the only way that he's able to keep and get the moderate and anti-Trumpers to go for him is to say those things when he's talking to them. And the only way he can get the radical left to back him is to say the opposite things when he's talking to them. And he needs the radical left. Have a good one, token Italian guy. So
Actually, I've just got the Discord link if anyone wants to use it, and put it in the chat right now.
okay, we make sure we have our back end set up so that only those 2 channels are open to the public.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to make sure that those are nicely, because that's all of our notes and stuff like that, and no need for people posted in there and stuff. That just gets in the way of things. All right. So yeah. I'm thinking if you're ready to go for the evening, or afternoon for you now, isn't it?
Dude, I'm just, it's 12:30. I'm just getting, I most days I've been in bed still at the moment, but I can,
It's that's what I said.
I
Afternoon for
would-
you, evening for me. So
yeah.
I'm thinking we can wrap it up here.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
See you
And,
next time.
Yeah, we will be back for sure, hopefully on our regular schedule this coming weekend, and then we'll be back on next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll post the schedule for the debate in the Discord for the vice presidential debate, and of course, we'll be back for the second and third presidential debates. Thanks for listening in to the Prometheans. I'm Izaran, and
I'm Radio Bane. Adios.
have a good night, everybody.